Now, so at this point we have our site set up. So now we need to go ahead and make our home page, which is going to be a review of the top 3 or top 5 products in our market. Now this is going to be our money page. This is where we're going to make our affiliate commissions from. So we want to make sure we put a lot of effort into it, and this isn't content that you would want outsourced. You want to go ahead and write this yourself. Now, of course, let's just cover a couple quick on-page SEO topics. We will cover off-page SEO, backlinking in great detail later in the course. But now that we're going to start putting content on our site, I just want to review some on-page SEO. So first off, you want to make sure you're always using your keywords in your heading tags, and heading tags are just like your H1 tag. That's probably one of the most important aspects of on-page SEO, so we want to make sure we're always doing that. I'll show you how to do that in WordPress very easily. We also want to make sure we're using our keywords in the first and last paragraph. It seems to help with SEO. We don't want to be stuffing our keywords throughout the content a ton. You just want to write naturally, but you do want to make sure your main keywords are in the first and last paragraph. You also want to include variations of your main keyword. So my main keywords are best sleeping bags and sleeping bag reviews. So maybe I could put best sleeping bag, drop the S, or top sleeping bag, or best selling sleeping bag. Or I could also do sleeping bag ratings or sleeping bag comparison. Just variations of your main keyword to kind of mix them in there as well. Then you also want to make sure your keyword is in your title, description, and your keyword meta tags. And then you also want to use tags. We don't use those on a post, or I'm sorry, we don't use those on a page, but when we start adding posts, we will use tags. And putting your keyword in your title tag, that's just simply by naming that page with your main keyword. WordPress will automatically then put that in the title tag. And again, I'll show you an exact walkthrough as we get into it. So first off, we need to come up with the content for our front page. And what I like to do is just list the top 3 best-selling products in that category from Amazon. So I'm just here on Amazon, and if I go to, actually let me jump over here. If I go to their best sellers and I want to find sleeping bags, so I go to sports and outdoors, outdoor recreation, camping and hiking, and we have sleeping bags. So now, since I know absolutely nothing about sleeping bags, the easiest way for me to give the top 3 sleeping bags is just simply to use the top 3 best-selling sleeping bags on Amazon. Pretty simple. If they're the top selling bags on Amazon, which is the largest online retailer, chances are, they're the best. They're the most popular. And also, we want to make sure, we only make money if people click our links and buy something. So they're probably most likely to buy what everybody else is buying, because that obviously shows they're great sleeping bags. So I'm just going to list my top 3 sleeping bags based on the Amazon bestseller list. Now, a couple things to point out. With sleeping bags, they're all not really the same. I've kind of been doing a little research on them here. We have, like, for example, number 1 is the Adventurer Mummy Ultra Compact sleeping bag. So actually the reason this one is so popular is because it's very lightweight and very compactable, so it's great for people who are going on long hikes and don't want to carry a big, bulky sleeping bag. Then if we look at the Coleman Green Valley Cool Weather sleeping bag, that's a sleeping bag that's great for, not extreme weather. I think it's good for weather down to like 30 degrees. Where we also have, there was another one on here that I'm not seeing right now. There is like an extreme weather sleeping bag, so that's for people who are going to be in extreme temperatures down to like 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So for me, I'm going to rate the best the best one in each category. So I'll have a compact category, a cool weather category, and extreme weather category. Another example might be, for example, if you're doing baby strollers, you could do the best baby stroller or the best jogging baby stroller, because a lot of people will go jogging and push a stroller. Maybe the best walking stroller, things like that. Or if you just have a very general category where they all fall into the same kind of the same use, you can just list the top 3. So what I'm going to do now is jump back over to our demo site. So what we want to do, where we're going to put this content is a page. So we want to go page, add new. And again, for your title, you want that to be your keyword because that's going to be your H1 tag. So I will put best sleeping bag reviews, because again, that is my main keyword. And then in here, you just simply, list out your top 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this in so you can kind of see what it looks like, and then I'll go from there. Okay, so I just filled in the content there. So again, what I basically did was just give a little introduction. So when it comes to finding the best sleeping bag, which is one of my keywords, I'm going to talk about there's some things to consider. Then I have best sleeping bag reviews. So again, I worked my 2 keywords in the beginning of the content, and then I say our top 3 choices based on camping conditions. So again, what I did was I did the best extreme weather sleeping bag, and I did the Coleman Northridge 0 degree mummy bag, because that one's good down to 0 degrees. And then again, I just basically outlined what's good about it, and then I gave a conclusion. And then I have the best cool weather sleeping bag, and that was that Coleman Green Valley cool weather sleeping bag. Again, I just listed some of the features, gave a conclusion. So this is ideal for the average camper who wants a comfortable, warm, and durable sleeping bag at a very reasonable price, because that was one of the cheaper ones as well. And then I have the best compact sleeping bag, and that was that Adventurer Mummy one. And then I gave a conclusion. Then at the end, again, I gave a little, just a little closing, and then I have best sleeping bag reviews. So I put my keywords at the end again as well. So that's all there really is to it. I just reviewed, the top 3 bags. I also put these little break lines in here to kind of break them up. If I go to HTML, you'll see that those are just simply an HR tag. So you just put, the HR tag in there, that puts a little line, kind of just breaks it up. So that's really all there is to adding the reviews. Now you'll see with the headway SEO tag, you want to go ahead, you enter in your title, then you give it your description as well. So that has the SEO all built in. And then you'll just simply publish that. So that is published. Now one thing we want to do is now if we go to settings and we go to reading, it says your front page displays your latest posts. We don't want that. We want the page we just made to be a static front page. So if you do a static front page, and then we just choose the page we just made, which is best sleeping bag reviews, and if I hit save, now that page we just made will be the front page of our website. So if I go back over to the site, you can see right now it's completely blank because we have no content. And now if I refresh it, you can see that it popped in the page we just made as our front page. So there we go. One other thing you're going to want to change is if you go to Headway and you go to Options, Headway has its own search engine optimization tab here. So if we click on search engine optimization, let me scroll this over just a tad, and you can see that we can change the SEO for different pages. Now if we go to front page, we want to go ahead and enter in our SEO stuff. Now again, it gave us the option of doing that on the actual page, which I showed you, but now that we made this our front page, we need to enter it in here. So again, I have my title, Best Sleeping Bag Reviews, and then I'll just put in a description real quick. So I just entered in a quick description. If you are considering purchasing a new sleeping bag, you want to make sure to come read our sleeping bag reviews to see which bags made our top 3. So again, I have my main keyword in here, sleeping bag reviews. And it entices readers to come through. If I'm in the market for a new sleeping bag and I read that description, I'm going to say, hey, yeah, I do want to see, which ones are their top 3s. And then we'll want to make sure and go down here and save changes. One other thing we can do right now is if we go to single post, we want to go ahead and remove site name from here. So it's just the title. Because in the future, when we make posts to this we want to make sure the title is just, the title is just the title of the post. So again, you just go to post, just make it title, and I will save that as well. And again, you can see how easy Headway is to use here. They make everything so simple to use. So that's all there really is to that. That's about adding your content. Now in the next video, we'll talk about adding our Amazon affiliate links to the page. In this video, we are going to go ahead and get a domain for our site. Now we should have already done our keyword research so we know what keywords we're going after. And now we're going to try to get a domain with those keywords. So for me personally, I like to use namecheap.com. I've used a ton of registers in the past. Used to use GoDaddy mostly, but I've had some issues with them. So I've kind of moved away from them. And now I use Namecheap exclusively. So if you want to follow along exactly, you can use Namecheap as well. Otherwise, whichever one you are familiar with. Now, when I did my keyword research, if you remember in the previous video, the two terms that I wanted to target were sleeping bag reviews and best sleeping bag. I had two secondary terms as well. They're just variations, sleeping bags review and best sleeping bags. So basically just an S on bag. So if I can't find a domain with the top two, I can always use those. So ideally, the best domain for me would be best sleeping bag reviews because it uses both keywords. I'm going to have exact match on both of those keywords if I can get that domain. Again, because I'll have best sleeping bag and then I'll have sleeping bag reviews all in there. If I can't get any of those, I can move on to my secondary terms. So let me try best sleeping bag reviews. And I'll see if that is available. And I'm in luck. It actually is best sleeping bag reviews. Now, if I'm just going to star that one because that's probably the one I want to use. Let's say that wasn't available. Well, then I could try best, what did I have? Best sleeping bags review. And that one's actually taken. I also could do just review, take the S off there. And now you can see that one's available too. So what you want to do, ideally you want to get both of the, well, if you're going after two terms, you want to try to get both of those terms in the domain. It's going to give you a little boost SEO wise. It's just nice to do. If you can only get one term, get that. But for this specific example, I'm going to be reviewing sleeping bags. So having sleeping bag reviews in the domain is probably my number one, the number one thing I want to get in there. Now, I just so happens I could get them both, best sleeping bag reviews. So that worked out perfect. I would urge you to get a .com. I know .coms are getting harder and harder to get, but from the sites I've created, .com still perform the best. A .net is also an option. I don't like to put a lot of hyphens in the domain, but if you're short on available domains, you can do that. But ideally, if you can get your keywords in your domain with a .com, that's the route I would go. So for this example, it just so happens that best sleeping bag reviews was available, which works out perfect for this. So go ahead and find a domain. Again, try to get a .com. Try to stay away from hyphens and try to get your main keyword in there. So if you have to put a secondary term in there, you can do that as well. Whether it be sleeping bag reviews online or like for example, best having to work out good, best sleeping bag reviews, or I could possibly do top sleeping bag reviews. Any kind of modifier you need to put in there, that's fine as well. I would just urge you to try to get your main keyword in the domain and get a .com without having to use hyphens. So I got bestsleepingbagreviews.com. That's perfect. I'm going to go ahead and buy that. And then from there, you just want to hook up your domain to your hosting account and then install WordPress. Now, if you're unfamiliar with those steps, I would recommend one of two things. Either you go to YouTube and look on there, or you simply look for a help section on your hosting account. There's so many different hosting accounts. I don't know which one everyone's using. So the easiest way is to check with your hosting account how to add a domain or WordPress, or just simply to look on YouTube. Once you have that done, we can move on to the next step. So now we have our content up. Our site's pretty much ready to go, but there is some final tweaks we want to make to it. So let's jump over to our demo blog here. And the first thing we want to do is add, let me look at the exact site. We want to add some widgets over here. So that's the first thing we want to do. So to do that, we simply go to Appearance, Widgets. And what we want to add is our recent posts and also our categories. You just simply drag and drop them over. Now for our recent posts, I'm going to name mine Sleeping, if I can type, Sleeping Bag Reviews. And I'll just set this to 20. We want all of our reviews to show. So if you get to the point where you have more than 20, you can up that, but I'll put it as 20 for now. And then for categories, I'm going to put Sleeping Bag Brands, because all my categories are going to be the specific brands, and I will save that. And that's pretty much all you have to do for that. If I jump back over here and refresh, now we have our sleeping bag reviews, and we have the one review posted, and we have our sleeping bag brands, and that's posted over here as well. Now, one other thing with Headway is it puts a lot of little link to them down here and some other just kind of junk down there. So let's get rid of that. So to do that, we just simply go to Headway, and I'm going to go to the visual editor, and I will let that load up here, and I'll just leave that as it is. And now we want to go to Manage, and if I scroll down to the bottom here, let me get rid of this over here. If we just hit this little Options tab, this will pop up. So now I can get rid of the admin link. I can get rid of the go to top because I don't really need that. I'm going to choose to hide the Headway attribute. And we can also put a custom copyright. So for my custom copyright, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to post it down here into the custom. I'm going to get rid of the date because I don't want to have to change that every year. And then see how it says best sleeping bag reviews? I actually want that to be a link back to my homepage. So it's going to give us a little, a little internal link, a little SEO help. So I'm just going to put in the href tag, link to my homepage, and then close it out. And if we look at this now we have a link to our homepage. So I can just simply save that. And you can see it kind of got rid of all that other junk that was down here. So if I go back and I refresh the page, and it is still showing for some reason. Let me try saving that again. And for some reason it doesn't want to, oh okay, I didn't click on the, you got to hit edit here. I didn't actually bring that page up to edit. So let's try that again. I'm going to click on this little options tab and just do the same thing. Save that. And I will refresh. And now you can see we have a nice clean footer with a link back to our site. So in case you didn't catch that, I didn't choose to actually edit the page. So now that is cleaned up. You can also choose to add a custom header up here. Instead of having just words, you can go have a header made. And to do that, you would simply go back to the visual editor, and now we would choose the options for the header. And you could just simply see header image, choose image. So I could just click that and add my own image for the header. Now a good place to get a header made for cheap is over on Fiverr. Let me shrink this a tad. So if we just simply go into the search box and hit header, you can see there's going to be a ton of people who will design you a professional header for $5. So again, very cheap to do. It's not necessarily needed. It does make the site look a little nicer, a little more professional. So that is up to you if you want to do that. So now our site is all set and ready to go. You can see, especially with Headway, it's a very clean layout. There's not a lot distracting people because, again, all we want them to do is read our reviews and click on our links. One other thing that I kind of noticed right now is our hyperlinks are the same color as the text. I usually like them to be blue. It makes them stand out a little more. If I just come over here and go to design, and then I'm going to edit the content here. So I click the little options tag, and I want to go to display. Nope. If I change that to editor here, I can go to content, and then I have body hyperlinks, and I can go ahead and change the color, which I'm going to do 0000FF, which is kind of the standard hyperlink color. And if I save that, you can see now it made my hyperlinks that nice blue color, which is what I was hoping for. So if we refresh that, you can see now we have our hyperlinks a nice blue, kind of makes them stand out a little more, makes people more likely to click them. One other thing I might want to clean up, I might want to get rid of when this was posted on, just because if you have this site up for a while, for me on a sleeping bag review site, reviews and sleeping bags really aren't this emerging technology where they're going to change rapidly. So chances are I'm never going to have to really edit these reviews, but I don't necessarily want people thinking the reviews are outdated. So it is a good idea. I could just get rid of all of this here. You'll also notice I have, if we scroll down, it says comments are closed. I don't really like to have comments on these just because if people start leaving random comments, it can kind of dilute the relevancy of your page if they're writing, even if they're writing their own reviews, it kind of throws off the content on your page. So I do have those turned off, but we might want to actually go ahead and get rid of, the posted on and posted by admin because we don't want them to seem outdated. So if I go back in my visual editor and I'll just go to manage, and again I want to edit this main content here, and if I go, let me scroll this over a little bit here. If I go to meta, I can see I have the meta above content. If I just click on that to edit it, I can just go in and delete that out, hit save again, and we can refresh the page, and now it's gone. So that's really all there is to it. It's pretty cleaned up now. We could also remove this sorry comments are closed, not really necessary. So again, we have our whole site pretty much done and ready to go. So again, now you just want to keep adding your content, and now we'll move into the next phase, which of course is starting to get backlinks for our site so we can start getting traffic and start making those commissions.